Welcome to an evening with DisCon 3. Tonight we have a very packed show. We'll have a short conversation with our chairs to get news from the con, and then explore the magic of storytelling in music and the power of community and art to affect personal and prophetic change with Sheree Renée Thomas, Andrea Hairston, Danian Darrell Jerry, and Pan Morigan. Finally, we'll get a peek at masquerades of old and the rules for this year's virtual masquerade. To start us off, I'd like to introduce our illustrious chairs, Colette Fawzard and Bill Lawhorn. Welcome.
Hi, very happy to be here.
What are you guys excited about with respect to the convention right now?
Bringing the Worldcon back to Washington, D.C. for the first time in 47 years. I mean, who isn't starved for a little human contact and fun at a convention where you can actually see your friends? So we're really looking forward to that. And as co-chairs, we get to see, we hear a lot about the ideas that our staff are working on. And we're really excited at some of the exhibits we have, some of the programming ideas that are coming together, events. It's just going, they're just coming up with all sorts of things. And we're just really happy to be able to do what we can to encourage that.
And Bill?
Colette said it all. She's keeping me quiet here. I'll just, yes, Colette, that's correct, Colette. No, and she's hitting all the high points, getting fandom the chance to come to DC and see all the great museums, see the wonderful city, the green space around our function space, to be able to walk, down a little hill and hit amazing restaurants. And hey, there's a wonderful gin bar that includes a Michelin star restaurant above it that's quite good. And you're close. You're in the city, but it doesn't always feel like you're in the city. And I think that's something that, maybe we haven't highlighted enough. And then we're close to the National Zoo. So, within a few minutes, people can walk from the hotel. They can walk through. They can see our new panda cub, giant panda cub that's, starting to actually look like a panda now, not just a little stick of butter. For me, I'm really looking forward to being there and being with the people. And because you spent all this time building, developing, making things ready to happen. And then all of a sudden, people start showing up. And that's the moment that you look forward to. And then, of course, you dread the moment. Oh, God, it's move out time.
Oh, yes, certainly. And I don't think people really have an idea how much work goes into preparing something like this. I can tell you that I didn't, and I've attended a couple of Worldcons previously, but especially to be the chair of anything connected with Worldcon. I mean, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of work. It's crazy. Some of the things that I'm most excited about are the regular Worldcon activities. The masquerade, the Hugo Awards. I've seen. Well, I'm excited to see what the actual design of the statuette looks like this year. It's to
we
me.
Could tell you, but yeah,
Then you have to kill me.
The thing we can say about the Hugo base is that we are working with an area artist to create something that is ties in very well with DC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all we can say.
Well, and of course, isn't that the case, with all the bases, and that's part of what makes each event, each award unique unto itself. I mean, it's
sometimes there's a little deeper meaning behind them.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Hugo base they did for Con Zealand this year, the way it was tied into the Southern Hemisphere, it was and the local community, it was there was a lot of meaning there. Mm-hmm. And thanks, Colette, for being involved with making sure that happened.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, one of the other things that impresses me about this particular show is, I guess partly because of the origins of Worldcon, everybody is so intelligent who's involved with this. I've just been so impressed at the people that I've met, and the depth and the thought that goes into every aspect of what's going on.
About to say, you flatter us so by saying that we're intelligent. Thank you very
just
much.
an observation, Colette. Just a
Bumbling,
layperson's observation. Anything? Talk about rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. Good gracious.
Well, that's how we get there. We're the one thing. I fear our spouses are. I think they have to have their own organization. The chairs Lost Chairs Club or something like that. Spouse Club.
Yes, I think we're definitely going to be doing Worldcon Widows.
Yeah,
ribbons for Sarah and Chuck.
Yeah. We actually I really do have to say, we do really truly appreciate all the support we get from both Sarah and Chuck. They put up with a lot, and
couldn't do it
they
without
also
them.
are there to put us back together when stuff goes wrong. And having somebody who's there to support you is what makes the community great. And so it's one of those moments where you got to remember to thank the people who are there for you on a regular basis, because we don't see it all. I don't see everything that's going on with Colette's life. She doesn't see everything that's going on with my life. Yes, we're in communication a lot, but our spouses, they see it. They're there for us. They let us do this. What did they think? What were they thinking?
Bill, one of the reasons I really appreciate your comment there, because you're focusing on what's really important, and that which actually leads me to my next question, which is, how do people attend Worldcon, which is obviously the most important thing?
Absolutely.
So if you want to attend Worldcon, you have to join the family by becoming a member. Always kind of like to refer to our Worldcon members as a part of our family, because so many people we see. It's kind of like a family reunion every year. Not everybody makes it every year, but they're there a lot. So the people who are there are attending members, but there's also a second level of supporting members. And so what is a supporting member? A supporting member is somebody who is part of the family, and they have paid their basic entry membership level, which is typically around $50. And what happens is they then get the rights to receive any generally released paper publications, which is the souvenir book. They have the right to nominate and then vote for the Hugo Awards for this year, or this coming year. And then, of course, there's the ever important site selection vote for 2023. Where will we be in 2 more years after our convention? Now, that's what the supporting members get. The attending members have all of those rights, and then they get to come and hang out with each other. And then they get also the right, if they so choose, to go to and attend the WSFIS business meeting. The WSFIS business meeting is where the decisions that are made, that how we're going to operate as a group going forward, are made. Those are the main functions. And of course, you have the rights. If you are attending, you get to go to the exhibits, you get to see the masquerade, the Hugo Awards, programming. You can volunteer, but that's a different time. So we've got all those things going on. We understand that not everybody has the same knowledge and means and ease of attendance. So some of the things that we've created within our community, and it's not just Colette and I on this is our team, our whole team. We've come together and we've talked about it, we've looked and we've budgeted, and we're passing on some traditions that we picked up from other places like Helsinki and Worldcon 75, which was in Helsinki. And so we're going to be offering a first Worldcon attending membership, which is at a reduced rate as compared to the full attending membership. We also understand that we're a family and there are families. And so we have a household rate that's available for people for up to 6 members and a household, and it's a $500 rate. And you can, of course, set up, we do have payment plans that you can arrange to work on. So you'll pay the initial supporting membership level and then you can pay on there as long as you've met it by the time we're ready to start the convention. We also have planned for a very typical in recent years young adult membership range, which is again at a reduced rate, and there's also a child membership, and then children 6 and under are free. One of the things I always want to make sure we talk about is when's the next rate increase. The current rates are good through the end of the year. We knew that we had to do more. And this is one of Colette's great passions. So I'm going to let her talk about one of our new initiatives to help people out.
Thank you, Bill. What we have launched in the last month that we're very excited about is we are calling it our Capitalize, and it is the DisCon 3 Fan Fund. Basically, we are accepting donations along with the initial 20 memberships that were donated by DisCon 3 to this fund to be able to increase the diversity and the inclusion at DisCon 3 of our participants, of our attendees, artists, all of that, to be able to come and really enjoy and take part in what we call this fandom family reunion each year. One aspect of it is that if you live within Washington, D.C., and within a 20-mile radius of the Washington, D.C. border, and you have limited means, we have a pay what you can membership. If you could manage like $40, $50, then you would get a full attending membership. Because since this is the first time in 47 years that the Worldcon has been in Washington, we really want students, we want anybody who wants to come to be able to come if they live in the area. And then another aspect of that is that we are raising money to support not only free memberships, but also travel stipends for participants who would need to travel to get to Washington, D.C. And, you can participate on program. You just go be a fan. You can go, be an artist in the art show, whatever you'd like to do. Just hang out and enjoy, and just, enjoy all the aspects of Worldcon. And so basically, people would apply for that. And then based on how much money we're able to raise, then we would be able to support, lots of people being able to come to DisCon 3 who might not have normally been able to, because certainly, Worldcon membership sometimes can be, can run a little more expensive. And then also certainly traveling can be expensive. And we really just want to drop those barriers to be able to just, if you've heard about Worldcon and you really want to come enjoy it, please apply, because we're really looking to really bring in sort of like marginalized groups and groups that have been and attendees that have been traditionally underrepresented at Worldcon. Because we're hoping that once you come and enjoy DisCon 3, that you'll really enjoy it, and that you'll be able to set yourself a goal to be able to come to Worldcon more often as it moves around the world.
Or maybe one day you too can be a fool and share a Worldcon.
We're trying to get them to show up, Bill, not scare them away.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful initiative.
For some people, it's passion.
They
love recreational bureaucracy.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a wonderful initiative, and particularly, because this truly is a convention that is worldwide, and who can say that about, particularly now with the proliferation of cons that are absolutely not based in anything but money grabs, from what I've been able to see, sadly. This is an important distinction, sets itself apart. So I applaud and commend everything that you guys are doing on behalf of this. Quick question. In terms of
42.
Ha ha ha. There you go. No, unless we're covering this in the video that I'm getting ready to introduce. But how would somebody go about applying and determining eligibility for the initiative that you just mentioned?
Basically, for Capitalize, our applications will open up on October 15th. We are working with a small committee of consultants who are helping us sort of pull it together. And basically, the information is on our website under the Capitalize menu heading. What we are looking to do is bring in, fans and authors, artists, participants of traditionally underrepresented communities, doing, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, persons of color. We really want to celebrate the fact that Washington, D.C. is a majority minority city, which is why we are having the Pay What You Can membership for Washington, D.C. residents and the immediate area, because we really want people to just be able to come. We're just like, okay, you can pay this and then, grab your Metro card and come on up and you'll be right next to the hotel at one of our Metro stops. So the information is there on our website. We will be evaluating applications beginning next March for who is going to be able, for who we're going to be able to support to come.
At least the initial announcements.
Yes.
Because the more we get, the more we give.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we have a donation button on our Capitalize website. We are very fortunate. We are sponsored by a U.S. Nonprofit charitable organization. Any donations are tax deductible, along with your, in line with your individual situation. So we are very happy to be able to do that.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that it's important that people hear or learn about or know before we go into how to register?
I think that's everything for right now. We're just really excited to see you guys in DC next year. So,
and hopefully maybe at a convention somewhere traveling around the country and the world next year.
Hopefully,
nice.
Yes.
I was going to say, we're excited to be seen.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, it's the end of February was my last convention I was physically at. Kind of missing it.
Very much so.
Yeah. Well,
so,
and
how to register? They're going to tell you how now.
Yeah, we have a short video that walks you through exactly how to register for the convention.
Hello, and welcome to this video where we will be showing you how to register for our convention and what each registration type means. Beginning on our homepage for DisCon 3, locate the membership option at the top menu, and from there, select membership information. The page you will be brought to will have all the information regarding registration types and pricing for our convention. Here at Worldcon, we have two main types of memberships, our attending and supporting memberships. Both allow you to vote for site selection of the 2023 Worldcon, as well as the ability to vote and nominate in the Hugos 2021. Those who purchase an attending membership will be able to attend the convention for its duration, as well as have access to all activities and facilities we offer. Although those who purchase a supporting membership won't be able to attend the convention, your support and voice matters greatly to us, and your input is so important in site selection and Hugos. Attending memberships are split into 6 different categories. Each category is different, so make sure you choose the one that will be right for you. The categories are as follows: adults, young adults, child, kid in tow, first Worldcon, and finally, our household ticket. Those who wish to upgrade from a supporting membership can do so at a reduced rate. Don't forget, if you voted in site selection at Dublin 2019, you automatically have a supporting membership for DisCon 3. Once you have purchased your membership, you will have access to the members area and receive updates and news regarding the convention. By clicking the Purchase Membership button, you will be asked to enter your email and either be signed in automatically or sent a once-off sign-in code. From here, select Purchase Membership on the left of your screen and choose the membership type you would like. Enter your information into the required fields. At the bottom of this form, you can choose if you would like access information regarding the convention, or if you would like to be more involved in the convention as a trader, a volunteer, or a participant in the program. Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to keep an eye on our YouTube for more content and instructional videos.
I'd like to welcome DisCon 3's Hugo co-host and special guest of honor, Sheree Renée Thomas. She is the author of 9 Bar Blues, Stories from an Ancient Future from Third Man Books, out earlier this year on May 26th. Her first prose fiction collection, right? Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to greet you all from my hometown in Memphis, Tennessee, the ancestral land of the Chickasaw. All right. I am excited because we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is a little area of the genre that I've been toiling in for about 20 years. Afrofuturism. Yes. And I brought a few of my friends. These are part of my chosen community. And as an artist, you need a community to help you and remind you of what it is you're trying to do to sing you back into possibility. And these 3 people are really, really important to me. First, I would like to introduce to you my dear, dear friend and the wonderful, wonderful, multi-talented author, Andrea Hairston. Let me tell you a little bit about Andrea. I have known her since 1999. We met at Clarion West in Seattle, Washington. Clarion West, if you don't know, is an amazing 6-week workshop, which you must seek out if you're an aspiring writer in this field so that you too can find lifelong friends on the journey of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. You need to go to Clarion West.
Yeah, they do great work here.
Thank you. Yes, we had amazing teachers there, including Nancy Kress, who is an amazing first week teacher.
And one of our other Worldcon guests of honor this year.
Yes. We had Octavia E. Butler, which is one of the reasons why, I threw everything to the wind and decided to apply for this workshop, even though I had dark matter to turn in that September. So I was a crazy lady. We had Greg Bear, who I remember reading his work in the Ellen Datlow edited Omni magazine that my parents had, and I was reading those stories. Howard Waldrop as well. I believe I first encountered his work in that magazine as well. But I didn't know I had been reading him because he had such a diverse way of writing. So I could never tell which was a Howard Waldrop story. That's how great he was. Gordon Van Gelder, of course, editor of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. And our last week writer was Gwyneth Jones, who came all across the big water. That's where I met Andrea. Okay. And we have been friends ever since, just studying her work, learning from her. She is a master playwright. She is a novelist and a scholar. She has published 4 novels, and I have her brand new one, Masters of Poison.
Yeah, I've got that one in order. I'm so looking to picking it up from the bookstore and getting the chance to read it. I'm looking forward to that with so much passion.
From.com, and I'm just going to read Daniel Jose Older's quote, and I just like to say this. He is the brother of my co-host, Malka Oder.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's brilliance in that family. Sheer, undiluted brilliance, epic, courageous, unapologetically fierce. That is the description for this wonderful fantasy novel. Her other 3 novels are Will Do Magic for Small Change, a New York Times editor's pick, Redwood and Wildfire, winner of the Otherwise Award and the Cole Brandon Award, Mindscape, which she was working on at Clarion West, winner of the Cole Brandon Award as well. And I just like to give a shout out because I published the first excerpt of that in Dark Matter, a century of speculative fiction, in Dark Matter, Reading the Bones, excuse me. So that was really wonderful to be able to meet all these great writers and buy stories while we were writing an original story every single week. It was crazy.
Yeah.
She has published another collection called Lonely Stardust, a collection of essays and plays. She has published Grails of the Galaxy, which is a short story that appeared in a beautiful collection that I'm in as well, and I love it so much. It's called So Long Been Dreaming, Post-Colonial Visions of the Future, and it was edited by Upinder Mihan and Nalo Hopkinson. She has a wonderful novelette called Salt Water Railroad, which was published by Lightspeed Magazine, and you can also hear the audio book, the audio version of it, which is fantastic. She has a short story called Dumb House, which appears in New Sons, original speculative fiction by people of color, edited by Nisi Shaw. Andrea has received a ton of awards and grants. And I know that sometimes writers are embarrassed when you take their bios and you read the actual bio, but I like to do this because I've also taught writing. And I know that when you hear about these awards, it inspires people who might not have had the courage before to apply. So yes, you too can probably get supported for your writing from your state because the National Endowment from the Arts gives grants to every single state in this union. So get some of those coins, okay?
Yeah,
she has received grants from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and the Massachusetts Cultural Council. Her main novel that I just mentioned today, Master of Poisons, came out on September 8th. So please read it, review it, signal boost it. Now, I'm going to tell you what she does in her spare time, right? Because it doesn't sound like she has a lot of spare time, right?
No, she's doing so
much. Let me tell you what Andrea does in her spare time. People, she is a full-time professor,
Spare time.
Departments at Smith College. She is the artistic director of Chrysalis Theater, which she has been running with James Emery and Pan Morigan, who is my other wonderful guest here tonight, for over 30 years, okay? So she is the Louise Wolfe Kahn, 1931, professor of theater and Africana studies, all right? So where does she have this spare time?
Where does she have spare time?
She is a process queen, and she is very, very organized, I will say that. And when she's not teaching and writing and directing and working with students, and she's an amazing professor, I'll say that. I took a screenwriting class of hers, and I had never written a screenplay before. And let me tell you, hard. I finished a full first draft of my entire screenplay in her class, all 3 acts. It was astonishing. She was just wonderful to work with. So that's Andrea. Now, when she's not doing all of this work in teaching and writing and creating new worlds on the page and on the stage, she is also biking. She is an Amazon. She's an athlete. She bikes at night, year round, even during blizzards, and I'm a witness to that, where she meets bears and other multi-legged creatures of light and breath, and the occasional shooting star. That is Andrea Hairston, who will be here reading her work with us tonight. I'll tell you about my second guest here, all right? Now, this person is a new writer emerging, but not new to the thing, not too new to the scene. He is also a multi-talented artist. Danian Darrell Jerry is a writer, a teacher, and a musician. He holds a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from the University of Memphis, where he teaches literature and English composition. He is the writing specialist at the HBCU Russ College, where Ida B. Wells matriculated, all right? And he also is a tutor who works with special needs students at the Bowie Reading and Learning Center. He is a
Such important work.
2020 VONA Fellow. And if you don't know VONA, please look up VONA. It's a wonderful community that supports writers, and all kinds of amazing people come out of that. So definitely look up VONA. He is the fiction editor of Obsidian, Literature and Arts in the African Diaspora. And he is the founder of a wonderful community group called Neighborhood Heroes. It's a youth arts program that employs comic books and literary arts. It works closely with another Memphis group called Comics for Kids, which gives free age-appropriate comics to children all across the Mid-South to help encourage their sense of wonder and have them have a lifelong love of reading and science fiction. So literacy is important. That's what we're doing in the 21st century. Afrofuturism is grassroots, all right? He was a featured guest at the 2019 Mercedes-Benz South by Southwest Media Convention at Frankfurt, Germany. And his work has been discussed in a number of publications, including This Ain't Chicago, Race, Class, and Regional Identity in the Post-Soul South, which came from the University of North Carolina Press, edited by Zandria Robinson. He is also featured in Hip Hop in America, a regional guide. It's 2 volumes from Greenwood, which I cannot afford right now.
How does he find all the time to do all of that?
They will crack you in your head. But one day I'm going to put my 2 coins together and get those volumes. And he's in a number of other publications. As a professor, he has taught fiction writing and performance reading at the Memphis College of Art. And he's currently revising his first novel, The Boy with the Golden Arm. As a child, Danian read and drew comics. And as an adult, he writes his own adventures. His work appears or is forthcoming in Fireside Fiction. In fact, that's coming out in a few weeks. So get that as your Halloween gift to yourself. He is featured in Apex Magazine, which you have to support those wonderful works coming out of there. And he has a new story in Trouble the Waters, Tales from the Deep Blue, which I have co-edited with my guest, Pan Morigan, and with the editor of Fire Magazine, or one of the co-founders of Fire Magazine, Troy L. Wiggins. So that's Danian Darrell Jerry. I'm going to tell you about my new friend, my new and old friend. I say my new friend because she's putting on new talents, new hats. She is leveling up on us, right? Now, I have known her since 1999 as well. And this artist here, well, she makes me wish I was born differently and could actually sing, okay? Unfortunately, I don't have that ability, but when Pan Morigan is performing, we all feel like that we are singing right there with her. She's just wonderful. She is a dual citizen of Canada and the United States of these Americas. She's a vocalist, songwriter, and instrumentalist. I've never seen her pick up an instrument that she could not figure out how to find the way to make it sing. So she's gifted in that area. She's a producer, a fiction writer, and a poet. And I say that's the new talents. They're actually her very old talents, her first talents. She's coming back to them, and I'm so happy to witness that. Her genre-defining songs are influenced by jazz, by Irish, by Scottish and Greek music, and American folk and blues. And that's the music she heard growing up. She grew up in the South Side of Chicago. Her late father was a musician. Her sisters are musicians, and that is a brilliant family. The stormy landscape of the Great Lakes and the prairies inspired her most of all. And when you listen to her album, Wild Blue, I need you to listen to every single song, because like every song is a riddle, because she's a poet, and it's spun of water because of her imagination. And she loves this world. So it's full of sky, thought, and the earth. Pan, that multi-talented artist friend of mine, right? She's working on some new work. I cannot wait to see it. And she might not like me saying this, but I'm just going to say it, Pan. I read her work and I think of 2 writers I really love and admire, Angela Carter and Leonora Carrington. That's Pan Morigan. Thank you so much for being here.
So we'll bring them all up in just a bit, but for right now, we've got some readings from these talented writers and musicians, and we'll start with that now.
Wonderful.
Chapter 2 of Master of Poisons. When Awa was a 12-year-old garden sprite, green elders declared Smokeland a true realm of vision and spirits. Awa and the other sprites were not to fear or make fun of sacred space as most people did. Smokeland was a vast territory of possibilities and maybe nots, but never very far from what was happening right now. Smoke walkers were intrepid adventurers exploring the unknown, dream tinkerers who shifted the shape of the everyday. Awa never told the Green Elders or anybody, but she'd become a Smokeland believer at 6. Whenever Mother's spirit faded away like smoke on the wind, Awa held tight to Mother's breath body, sometimes for hours. Awa sang, told herself stories, or talked to bees and wild dogs until Mother returned from Smokeland with herbs from nowhere in this world. Awa hugged cold from Mother's thoughts, shook dead weight from Mother's bones, and combed fearful snarls from her wiry hair. Watching over Mother's breath body was a lot to ask of a young daughter who had snarls and sorrows of her own. Awa's older brothers would have felt duty-bound to report a smoke-walking witch woman to Father. Being a good Empire citizen, Father would have turned Mother in to the high priest in Holy City or killed her to avoid shame. So guarding her breath body during illicit adventures fell to Awa. Mother and other smoke walkers reported slogging through a border realm of enchanting freaks and monsters. Before entering Smokeland proper, they were harassed by lightning bolts and spears of fire. Jellyfish explosions and poison dust cyclones were also common. Worst was a cold, dark emptiness that seeped through skin, erasing thought, desire, and fear. To survive the border void, smokewalkers often drank a cathedral seed and cloud silk potion to lift their minds above despair. This potion eased the journey but did not cause it. Even drugged, many people never made it through Smokeland's border realms. Their spirit bodies got lost in the emptiness or stolen by High Priest Hezron for his conjure. Their breath bodies withered to bone and then dust. Awa thought of it as poison desert in the mind. The first time she wandered to Smokeland was in the company of bees. It was the day before her 12th birthday. She and oldest brother Kanu had opened an elephant corral left behind by thief lord raiders, and they let the beasts run free. Angry villagers who wanted to sell the elephants chased after them, but the elephants escaped. Father was outraged. Awa ran away from him and Mother, arguing over true love and some other man's child. Awa followed friend honeybees as they flew sideways into the woods. Which woods, she could never say. The forest surrounding Father's lands was ancient cathedral trees, whispering to one another up in the clouds. Bronze-colored bark was dappled with purple moss. Feathery needle leaves started out red and turned green with age. Cathedral roots were as thick as Awa and oozed an oily scent that made her dizzy. In her childish memory, Smokeland terrain got tangled with the everyday. This first time, Awa was disappointed not to find a border of fiends, exploding jellyfish, and void smoke. She landed in a field of wildflowers by a cathedral tree grove. She moved at the speed of thought, spinning endlessly around a drop of water as it slid down a leaf. In a blink, she raced from riverbank to valley to rocky peak. A beehive the size of an elephant rested inside a tree trunk cavern. Swarms of workers buzzed about, stingers hot with venom. Dancing distress, they smelled like ripe bananas. Awa saw no reason for alarm. Trees and bushes were heavy with flowers. The ground was a mosaic of petals. Deep-throated blossoms bulged with fragrant nectar. Inside the hive, the queen pushed an egg from her abdomen into a cell every minute. Workers spit nectar into the queen's mouth. 1,000 nurses buzzed over a developing brood. Drones were fat and frisky. Bee paradise. Sentinel bees clustered around Awa's mouth. She was afraid they might sting her. Was she the danger? They spit honey and venom on her tongue, a bittersweet concoction. Night fell like a dark curtain. A cold scar moon hung overhead, a desperate lantern in deep dark. Sentinels wagged their butts and buzzed away from the giant hive. Awa flew among 1,000 bees toward Smokeland's border, where flowers dissolved and cathedral trees crumbled into poisoned sand. The slash of moon dripped blood. Confused bees flew into the ground. They ate their own wings and stung rocks. Faceted eyes clouded over and sparking hearts burned out. 1,000 wings flew ahead of Awa and turned to smoke. She choked. Confronted with the famed horror of the border realm, Awa tried to slow down, tried to turn back for bee paradise, but she no longer had the speed of thought. Her mind was sluggish terror and then blank as void smoke enveloped her. A taste of the sentinels lingered in her mouth. A stinger caught in a tooth pricked her tongue. Venom flowed to her heart, and she swooned. Father and other good Empire citizens claim there was no realm of imagination, no true land of visions and spirits. Smokeland was sleepwalking sickness, drunken dreams, or green elder nonsense. That explained tattoos, burnt hair, and the treasures folks brought back from their adventures. Smoke walkers knowing what they shouldn't or couldn't was another matter. Father couldn't explain that away. He just insisted Mother's exotic herbs and concoctions were family secrets. Southern thief lords sold or burned any woman who knew too much. Northern savages sliced smoke walkers from navel to chin to expel demons. Priests and witch doctors poisoned their breath bodies and stole spirit blood to power gate spells or do other conjure. This was a living death. Good Empire citizens locked up smoke walkers to train for priesthood if they were men, or drain as transgressors if they were women. And a Vazen, what Anawanama Northerners called someone who was neither man nor woman, had to decide for one or another horrible fate, living as a man or dying as a woman. So, Awa returned from her first Smokeland trip to Mother's garden and let Smokeland knowledge taste sweet on her tongue. Then she swallowed it quickly, unspoken. That made her muscles lumpy and her joints wobbly. She snorted wisps of border void and felt dizzy. Father was still yelling at Mother about an unruly daughter who'd end up like witch woman Kiri, wandering a cold mountain, bloody and bitter, childless, and without love. Mother distracted him with a sack of jewels and coins, while Awa struggled back to her everyday self. The scar moon was low and the sun about to rise over Mother's garden. Silver-leafed herbs brooded around the well, and spice bushes scented the air. Awa focused on cinnamon aromas. The everyday was as compelling as Smokeland. Mother must have carried Awa's breath body back from the forest. Forget the elephants. Mother pleaded with father. Her willful hair was braided down in thick plaits. Her brown cheeks sagged. This unruly child has brought in a treasure. Counting the money, father didn't notice the wild pup licking Alwa's face. Mother chased him off before father put a bolt in his furry hide. Dogs harassed the goats who had no fat to worry away. Selling Awa has saved your farm, Mother said. Father looked up from his money bag at the tumble-down corn crumbling in the fields. Fruit trees were covered in a fuzzy scale. Goats bleated at kids who were sucking at their dried teats. Father had stolen all the milk. We'll see if this farm can be saved, he said. His eyes were flicks of flame, his trim beard patchy. We'll see. Awa's face was flame hot, her hands cold. They were selling her on her birthday. Like a savage girl, nobody wanted to feed anymore.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Danian Darrell Jerry. I'm a writer based in Memphis, Tennessee, and today I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my novel, Boy with the Golden Arm. I have work forthcoming in the fall edition of Fireside Quarter. Boy with the Golden Arm, Track 1, Natural Born Thriller. Michael Irons hurried north to meet O-Baby. A nightmare had driven him from the home studio he shared with his aunt and uncle. In his dream, he battled his dead father while his dead mother sang from the moon. He always lost the rap battle, and he always died before he woke up. Wind rose over black streets paved in blank television screens. He wrapped his cloak around his bony chest, rubbed his gold arm. The prosthetic limb played a rhythm that matched Michael's fear. Subwoofers knocked inside buildings arranged like rotten teeth. In the distance, a coliseum spat black smoke, black and yellow smoke. I am hip hop, Michael pointed, imagining himself scolding his father and uncle. L haunted his dreams. Uncle Zeb worked him like a slave in the home studio. Liberated, Michael faced miles of cracked television screens and flesh-craving plants. Starting for the Coliseum, he prayed for devastating mind control. He found O-Baby by a tunnel that crossed under a rail yard. She lifted a spray can, stared at Michael through a half-mast respirator. Unable to see her face, Michael recognized her afro puffs, shifting at the edges, the crystal dust that twinkled through the matted naps. O-Baby pulled the mask over her head, grinned like a beaver. She pointed at a throw-up, shining on gray fiber crystal. Pixelated head, afro puffs, dark skin, round eyes, and a wide gaping mouth posted the wall. O-Baby's signature tagline, "Oh my goddess," scrolled under the picture. Your brother taught you to spray paint? Michael reached for the tag, but heat burned his fingers. He wondered if Basky made her practice for hours without food. If anything, I taught him. O-Baby spoke in a dismissive tone like fanning a mosquito, stuffed her mask into her backpack. He used to copy my sketches till I got on his case. She nodded. Her afro puffs bounced and powdered the air with sparkling dust. It's not a secret, Michael, so stop looking surprised. She squinted like something drew her attention, reached for Michael's face, snatched her hand before touching his cheek. What? Michael turned his head, raised his hands to cover his face. In the same moment, relief and rejection swirled in his stomach and settled in his chest like bedrock. I thought your brother was taking us to meet that lady, Michael said, to hide the boy who never left his uncle's studio without permission. Every time you go to sleep, you have the same nightmare? Oh Baby's voice dimmed and went hollow. The 12-year-old grabbed Michael's shoulder, gloves cut to her knuckles, paint covered her fingers. A dusty black jacket creaked at the joints, hugged her small arms and belly. Backpack strapped to her shoulders, Oh Baby raised her eyebrows and smiled. I tell you my secrets. Can this lady help me for real? Michael started to back away, but a small fist tightened around the folds of his cloak and his heart. She's not a lady. Just have the money. For my brother, not me. Oh Baby pushed Michael and started toward the tunnel. As she continued, she kept her stride, focused on the darkness ahead. Come on, Case is impatient. If we're late, he might leave us. You sure you didn't tell my uncle? Michael scanned the overpass, his eyes wide, lips folded. A pair of headlights crept from the marble tunnel. Michael covered his eyes, peered through his fingers. Oh Baby thumbed the straps on her backpack, turned her face from the brilliance. The lights surrendered to a passing news van with two anchors slouching behind the windshield. Hunting leaves for stories, Michael guessed. He wanted to run, but Oh Baby pulled his finger, a gesture to walk, act natural, keep moving, just in case. The van hovered over cracked gray television screens, cluttered with garbage, broken MIDI controllers, warped vinyl, empty song crystals. The reporter in the passenger seat wiped lurid paint from his face, swirled and pulsed in a mess of multicolor, while the driver slammed her fist on the dashboard. Michael hid his arm under his cloak, watched the vehicle sculpt past. Brow wrinkled, jaw tight, Oh Baby stared at the ground, at the oncoming darkness. Advertisements streaked across the van's side panel, promised aid to the hip-hop heads, chances to join the media through casting calls, open auditions. Michael stared at the tunnel, but a voice invited him to the news van, a soft voice, like his mother, Lady Celine, when she danced and sang among the living. Take a chance on yourself. Be a star. Laugh. Play with the wealthy. Experience adventure. Access endless worlds designed in our television studio. We have the perfect role for you. Come, audition, follow the media. The news van paused, droning over shadowed television monitors. Michael wanted to run, but the voice sounded so nice. Don't follow that voice. That's how my brother got turned out. Oh Baby whispered through clenched teeth.
For you, I arrive as a voice. Think of me as a breeze blowing by, or a river whispering, musing about art and distance, the night, love. Oh, night, won't you try me again? I didn't mean to work so long, leave you alone without a song all night, all night, all night. All night, you were always my friend. You said, don't you fear the winding ways or the shadow places you must face in this life sometimes. Oh, night, I'm gonna dress up in your shadows and dance your burning drum. should drink it, I drink that too. And your burdens night, let me carry them for you. You see all night how much I've grown. I remember all I used to know. I am of you. Lonely stardust and twilight hue. Lonely stardust and twilight hue. We are not alone, though we may be blue when we love. I'm gonna dress up in your shadows and dance your burning drum till this lonely night comes all undone, and the lost are found. The lost are found. The lost are Won't you slip beneath my skin? I'll open all my doors, invite you in. You'll see all night. We'll just sing till we're one once again. All night. All night. All night.
Oh God, those readings get me every time, and that music is just so amazing. Sheree, thank you so much for bringing these guests on, and welcome Danian and Andrea and Pan to join us here. Sheree, where should we start? There's so much to talk about.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're just joining us, we heard Andrea read from her brand new novel, Master of Poisons.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yay, look at this cute book.
I just love that reading, Andrea. Thank you.
They trick you into thinking it's not 500 pages, but it is, but it moves fast.
It
Very
goes fast,
cinematic.
and the pages aren't that big. They're not
Yeah,
crammed
it's
full
cute
of
book.
things. So,
Perfect size book.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
500 pages in this time, and with everybody stuck at home. That's good.
yeah.
It's got bees and all kinds of wolves and just all kinds of amazing stuff in it. So, all right. It's all the things that you love about Andrea. So we got the chance to hear her reading that work. We got a chance to hear some Afrofuturism infused with hip hop and a little southern something, right?
Yep.
From Danian Darrell Jerry, who is also a wonderful world builder as well. So I can't wait to get into this conversation with you multi-talented people. And if you just tuned in, you heard the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful voice, music, the poetry, the songs. She did all the things, as they say, all the things on this recording. Pan Morigan. So I'm just so happy. You're like, well, who are these people? These are my community. They're part of my community. They are the people that when I feel like things are really dismal, I can call them up or they'll call me up. I can look into their faces. I can see hope reflected back at me. And that is what you need in these times. That's
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, since the focus of the show today was Afrofuturism, for each of you, how does Afrofuturism influence your work? Who would like to start?
Well, I'll start.
Thank you.
So, I have been studying Africa since I was 14. When I was in high school and we had to write a paper. And so I chose Nigeria. And I had no idea what it would mean to me when I chose it. I just said, oh, I'll do Nigeria. And so I was in 9th grade and I began researching and I couldn't believe how much I didn't know. And then I couldn't believe how much what I found out resonated with things I knew, right? So there was stuff that I didn't know was from Africa that I was understanding. And then I realized I didn't know a whole lot of things. So, education is a lot about what I didn't know. That's, like, oh, open this door and see the huge, enormous treasure that is there. And then, as I grew up, I found other people were not interested in preserving this knowledge, right? That, I had to go find it. It was hidden somewhere or under some dusty thing, or they didn't have a course in my college, or they, you couldn't find those books, or people were saying Africans, when they got to America, they left their culture behind and there's no more of Africa here. And I'm like, really? Because like I said, when I started reading, I began to note that I already knew some of the stuff. So when I get to write Master of Poisons, that's one of the things I put in the book. One of the characters is in search of knowledge that people would like to throw away. And that's the exact knowledge they need to save themselves, their spirits and everything. And it's what will get them to the future.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's like the ancestors are all there and they, we can call on them if we know them and if we can use the right words, and they will help us project ourselves beyond ourselves. So that to me is like the kind of the bedrock. And I remember you and I, we used to talk about Robert Farris Thompson, who was an one of the first people that was saying look at this African art in motion. So I'm a theater person. So, I'm like, yeah. And you and I used to have extensive conversations about that.
We realized we had all the same books.
We had all the same books.
Yeah.
Right. On the art, on the masks.
Right.
Yoruba sculpture.
Thompson's discussions of quilts made in the South and he was comparing the
African American quilts
to jazz,
to the kente cloth, to and so the impulses, the not that it's all the same, but the world views that are reflected and embodied in the art, in the music, in the dance, in the languages is all offered to us. Every language is the poetry of thousands of people, way back to the first word till now, and all their insights. And why would you want to throw those away?
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, in this country, we've done that to so many cultures where we've made it. We've done that time and again, and it's so important to get back and bring those things back to the forefront, because our culture is only embiggened by understanding all of the other cultures that have put us together.
Right. Well, Sheree mentioned the Chickasaw, and we were thinking of the people who are, we're in New England. And so
Pocumtuck land, Nipmuc land, Wabanaki land,
right.
That's where we are.
And that's where we are, and all of that wisdom too. So that was another thing that, being an Afrofuturist, I knew Grace Dillon, and she came up with the word indigenous futurism. And so we have gone to visit Grace many times and just really supped on all the amazing connections that, that she can offer and that we can see ourselves. Again, like the ancestors are all here whispering on the wind to us, and we got to listen to them because they are how we can get ourselves to the future, and with hope, because, they face things that I'm like, wow, the stuff I'm doing now is hard, but because, apocalypse has happened many times. And these people, are like thriving as amazing beings. So I need to take notes. I need to like do it myself. So
Yeah.
When you say that, that's how it influences, all the things that we do, because we do theater together too.
Danian, how about you? Can't hear you right now. I don't know if your mic's turned off. While he's working on that, Sheree, how about you answer? Obviously Afrofuturism has infused all of your work, but specifically, how do you see that in your work?
For me, the word for the day is evolution. From when Mark Derry coined it to, and when he was coining it, he was trying to discuss something that he was observing in certain areas. Of course, we've been creating this work, and now it's like 30 years later, right? We're moving forward, and so there's so many new voices and people around the world who are constantly redefining for themselves what this work is. So for some, Afrofuturism is a great term that helps them do whatever they're doing, or helps them describe. Because for me, it's all real estate. It's real estate. So I'm not going to go in a war with you over a term, but the work itself is a door. It's a door to a way of thinking and being that allows you to expand what we think of when we think of the genre, when we think of science fiction and fantasy and horror. If you come from a rootedness that is based on Black identity, Black culture, Black history, Black imagination, the radical Black imagination, then you're going to have some different kinds of stories, or you're going to take some of those classic stories that we love and you're going to have them told from a different point of view, right? So I'm down for all the things that is happening right now. And when I tell you, I need more bookshelves to accommodate the
Don't we all?
amazing new work. I have some things behind me over here. I have, of course, Kindred, that I got to get used to doing this. Kindred, which is Octavia Butler's novel, and was my first introduction to what I think of as Afrofuturism. I learned about it in a slavery and literature class at Rhodes. Which is in the news these days because of a certain unnamed candidate for the Supreme Court. But that was my first time seeing a Black woman protagonist in a science fiction novel that was doing anything science fictional. Let me just be real. For me. And it was eye-opening for me. This, the version I have over here was adapted by John Jennings and Damian Duffy, with permission, of course, from the Octavia E. Butler estate. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I have my book, of course, over there. And then I have Ring Shout, which is the last thing that I've been diving into, which is really, really scary, but really, really brilliant. And makes me think of all the cool stuff that's coming out that, the Lovecraft Country series that's out.
God.
And of course,
so
the Ballad of Black Tom that Victor Laval wrote, which I'm hoping that somebody's going to pick that baby up and make it into a series so we can just be engrossed in that too. I wanted to flash some other things because, I don't know, I just feel like it. I'm a visual person. Woo! Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. Of course, Dani and I were talking about Kaya Shanti Wilson today, who is amazing as well. Somebody better pick those books up. And what else do I have? I just I'm surrounded by Afrofuturism.
Well, there's so much of it out there.
YA books, for one. I will just say that. There is an explosion.
And it's so wonderful that these stories are finally making it out there. I mean, there was such a history of it being suppressed for so long. And it wasn't that it wasn't being written. I mean, some of the earliest science fiction is Afrofuturism. We just didn't know it at the time.
Lorraine Hansberry wrote Les Blanc before she died, and she died in the early 60s, okay? And in that, she conceived of an African nation that was, going to, have a revolution. And this was before all the African nations had their revolutions, right? So she's, and that's like, she was writing that in the late 50s, okay? So, people were thinking about this stuff for a long time, but like you said, they weren't getting picked up. I mean, James Earl Jones starred in that on Broadway, and it didn't last very long. So there was something wrong with it because he was probably
Absolutely.
So but this has been something that people have been afraid of to a degree. To admit that you have to leave the native at the door and become a modern person when you walk in, and you can't bring everybody in. Like that door you're talking about. Afrofuturism makes a new map of the world.
It does. It does. So Pan, I know you do all sorts of multimedia work. How is Afrofuturism influencing your work?
Well, I'll just start with the future that was in the past in music. We live in a culture that's a gaslighting culture. It's really good at erasure. And, I could call out names like Sun Ra or Alice and John Coltrane, Jimi Hendrix, Janelle Monáe are artists who resisted that erasure and who said, you are going to hear me, and I'm going to say to you that you need to know how to listen. And I have a story to tell that you are not listening to, that you are trying to obscure or erase, and that's not going to happen. Also, when I was, about 11 years old, my dad had a friend who had a huge record collection, and my dad got to borrow some of those records, and he brought them home, and he gave me the stack, and he said, this is American history is in this stack. And what was in that stack was Billie Holiday and Lester Young and Memphis Minnie and Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and, all the great music made by Black musicians in America that are the root, the trunk, and the branches of American music.
Absolutely.
And so I would have no music without the futurists who were singing that music in that past and now and into the future. My music would not exist without that music. My sound would not be what it is. And so I always am trying to pour some libation to the musicians that I've learned from and try then to, conduct myself as someone who has been.
Danian, has your mic?
But a witness in the spiritual sense, that you can witness for these amazing musicians, and the best witness is to make art, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now,
so
have we, Danian? Oh.
Danian is, I think, gonna drop out for a second to try and troubleshoot. His mic's not seeming to work. He's not muted in Zoom, so we'll see if he's able to rejoin us. In the meantime, let's continue the conversation. So, we have some of the greatest voices in Afrofuturism today, right here with us in the panel. But who else should we be reading? Where do you think the genre is going to be going?
Everywhere.
Well, one thing I will say this. Okay, so the thing that I'm excited about, like it used to be, if you wanted to talk about, I guess here in English in America, you wanted to talk about Afrofuturism, you were looking at an African writer, you would be able to talk, of course, about Nnedi Okorafor, right? Yeah, Nnedi was the lone one, born in Ohio, I believe, raised in America, right? But drawing upon her Nigerian culture and research and family information or whatever to create her worlds, right? Well, guess what?
Absolutely.
There are so many other writers who were probably there all along, but just did not have that journey. And Nnedi's a fighter, so she fought her way from one dream. She was an athlete to another dream, right? Wrote her way into a future. So there's that, and she's calling herself an African futurist. Now, so you get to name and claim yourself, right? But for 20 years, she was in the Afrofuturism community, right? and working, and will continue to do so now, doing other genres, other films, other things, right? Adapting our wonderful Octavia E. Butler's work for the screen that I can't wait to see. But there are so many other writers, right? Yeah. So there are communities of writers that you can look at now who are publishing, in English, and doing very, very well in terms of the fiction that they are creating out there and building an audience. There's a collection I just read called Dominion that was a lot of fun. And it has writers from Africa and the African diaspora. So you can get all of that as well. And there's just a lot of new people, So I feel like it's not enough just to promote yourself. It is, you got to build a community. You have to support younger writers. You have to take time out as others took time out for you, right? And create make that door open wide. And that's part of what I do. That's part of what I've been trying to do. If I fall down, I try to get back up, because that's how we do it where I'm from. And being an editor is a collaborative process. It is a community project, and not everyone is called to do that work, but that is one of the things that I love and have been working to do. So the time that we're talking about is a time that I dreamed about when I first worked on Dark Matter in 1998 and began to work on that, and before it was published in 2000. This time that we are living in, it may not have all the dreams that everyone can dream at once, but the door is open. And people, good work is coming out, and that's amazing. That is really amazing, because people forget, and I know some people weren't born yet because it was at the time, so they don't know. They literally had a conversation. It was a big conversation about the fact that Black people didn't read or write science fiction. They only knew Octavia Butler and Samuel R. Delaney. Yeah. So I have to. I like to be. I'm gonna be that old lady rocking in the chair, be like, "Oh, I remember when."
Oh, honey, grasshoppers. I got you by a few years. So, I think because I've known Sheree since 1999. So that's 21 years. And, I've been trying to publish stuff for all that time. And beyond. Before that, I was working too. But what I've noticed that is different now, like when I first put out my stuff, I would send it, people say, well, this is very well written. Right. But who wants, you have such strange characters. That was said about Redwood and Wildfire. You have weird characters. How can we publish that? Who's going to read that? I mean, it's very well written. So that I was published by Aqueduct Press. So was Sheree. So we had small presses that were and I think they have, they will continue to show us who is possible.
Show the way.
Yeah, show the way, because there are all of these writers who that was I don't know if there was an echo. Okay, but they're all writers, and I think we need to support them and to not think, oh, it's okay now. I think we need to keep doing what we've been doing for the last 20 years. Because I invited everybody to Smith, I had a group, Nettie came, and Sheree came, and Nalo came, and Nisi came, and Octavia came. I mean, I brought them all here because then
it's not a moment, it's a sea change.
Yeah,
it's like we're changing
going.
The world. The world is going to change. It's not just a moment of
So, Danian, has your mic gotten fixed yet?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Okay. So, I guess I'll go back because I did want to answer the question that was posed to me. How does Afrofuturism influence my work? And for me, it's just the idea of potentiality, the idea of looking at something and seeing where it could be instead of where it is. And for me, definitely, that's one of the reasons the Afrofuturism is the way it takes form in my novel, just has a lot to do with music. I come from the hip hop generation, and I just think when I think about hip hop, I think about looking at your community and like figuring out ways to make your community better. And if it's just like using spray paint to like make burned buildings look really pretty, or either to pass messages. When I think about like hip hop music, like even the music that the hip hop musicians use, turntables and mixers, they weren't designed for that. They were just designed to play music. They weren't designed like to sample music and mix melodies and drums and things like that. So like people actually like use these instruments for something much greater. In fact, like the whole advent of sampling, in the early days of hip hop, the pioneers, they were actually sampling before the drum machine samplers came out. And basically like the companies, like they looked at what the hip hop DJs were doing and made machines to replicate that. Right. Yeah. So that's like definitely for me, I just see so like breaking it down on a community level, looking at my community and seeing like where it could be, imagining a different world, imagining myself and my people engage in the world in totally different ways. One idea that comes to mind for me is Maurice Brodus's novel, Pimp My Airship. The idea of like this spoken word poet, right, who is in this steampunk-like setting is very different. And just the idea of like adding like that music and like that African-American culture, or just, to science fiction, I think, you get like interesting results. So when I think of Afrofuturism influencing my work, in short, it's just I think about potentiality, pretty much.
Yeah. No, and I'm really excited to see where your story goes. I know you've got that media van and all of that, and that seems like some sort of it seemed to me like that's like the police or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And re-envisioning how all that works, it's just really exciting.
Yeah. Thinking about like when the people who because like we live in a world that's sort of like ruled by narrative. So like in my story, like The Boy with the Golden Arm, it's sort of like the people who write the narrative, they figured out that like by writing the narrative, like you control the world through the narrative. So it's more of like a corporate like government, right? Is the media and the government kind of like the same thing? Everything's incorporated, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And so that's sort of like controlling the narrative is what this is all really about, right? Bringing the narrative back to the people. Yes.
Which is like a theme. One of the things like in like The Boy with the Golden Arm, right? How people can stand up and like take the narrative back and write their own narratives, make their own destinies, right? Yes, use their talents for, in the ways that they choose, like art for art's sake, for lack of a better term.
Well,
it's so funny you said that. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So we just did a talk for the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, right? With D.C. Shaw and Leslie S. Klinger and Danielle Trucian and Matt Ruff, right? And one of the things that was interesting to me about it, because it was called How to Read Lovecraft, during when Black Lives Matter. And for me, if you're gonna ask real questions, you're gonna get real answers, right? Because it's not cute. Like the world that we're living in, the reason why Black Lives Matter is not an entertaining reason. This is not it's not a carnival or parade. It's people dying and not receiving any justice and people not being held accountable. And so we're going to talk about these things. You're going to be real. And when you're talking about the power of narrative, if we talk about the work of Lovecraft, yes, read it and explore it, but place it in a context. But it's not just art for art's sake, because the work, the ideals that fuel the man and how he used the other in his horror was the reality that was being enforced on others, outside. It was the same narratives. The same narratives that were used to justify disenfranchising a whole group of people in our culture. So narrative is powerful. Racism kills. Stories can build and heal. Stories can take away, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, that art for art's sake is great until it's not, until those stories, that art is used as a weapon and a tool against you. So what I love about Danian's novel is that he explores those themes, because you have characters who are just trying to create their song, who are just trying to be the greatest MC, who are just trying to, to be all that they can be in this world, but the systems around them is taking their art and using it against them. You know what I mean? It's it's weaponizing them. When you say, Danian, it's sort of weaponizing them.
Mm-hmm. And I also I think for me, it's just when I think about art, the reason I say art for art's sake is because I was thinking more when I think about art and I think about music, I think of people using music to make it. And I think even going back to the slavery days, music served a very practical purpose, ways to communicate, ways to for us to carry our history. But music also helps you make it through life. It helps, if you're having a bad day, a song can help you make it. If you're trying to deal with life and depression, music can heal you. So I didn't mean necessarily art and just doing art and just saying, okay, well, here's the art, it's pretty. I meant art as an integral part of our lives that helps us literally make it from day to day, that helps us live and carry on.
Right.
So thank you guys so much. There's so much more we could talk about. I mean, if we had hours, we could continue talking about all of these topics and more. But I do want to thank you, Sheree Renée, Andrea, Danian, and Pan. This was a great panel. But now we need to shift our eyes to some of Worldcon fan content with our focus on fandom.
Each month, we're hoping to share content from you, the viewers. Since we didn't manage to get the word out for this, our first episode, we figured we'd start with some fan content that we already had. With it being October and the harvest season, we figured costumes and costuming felt like an appropriate theme. Here to tell us about the plans for the DisCon 3 masquerades is Dr. Karen Purcell, this year's masquerade director.
Hello, I'm a Stonzo fortune teller, straight out of Robert Lynn Asprin's Thieves' World Stories. More commonly known as Dr. Karen, I will be your masquerade director for the DisCon 3 Worldcon Science Fiction Convention in 2021. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. Due to the uncertainties that we all face because of the pandemic, DisCon 3 is planning a virtual masquerade. If we are lucky enough to be able to meet in person, we will also have an on-site masquerade. You're welcome to be in both. Right now, I'm encouraging all my costuming friends, all of my friends who like dressing as their favorite character, and all those creative fans out there to start putting their virtual presentations together. Please surprise us. As usual, we have awards for both presentation and workmanship. But this year, we are also adding an award to recognize excellence in video editing. This will be judged by our event's tech crew. We will be posting instructional videos on how to make your video presentation with instructions on how to submit and over the next several months. Most importantly, registration opens tomorrow, October 3rd. Rules can be found on the Masquerade page on the DisCon 3 website. If you have any questions, please feel free to email masquerade@discon3, DISCON and the number 3.org. We didn't have time to solicit entries for this month, but for November's Focus on Fandom, we would love to see your Halloween costumes. Submit your photos to our social media sites. For now, here are some costumes to inspire your efforts.
A dimension of sound, a dimension of mind. Your movement Thus, audiences like you could be subjected to an endless parade of puns, which could go on for years to come. Tall. Dark. Small. Short. That took unmitigated gall.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Karen Purcell, for that wonderful information about the masquerade. I know that's one of the biggest things for a lot of attendees, and everybody's really excited whether you're going to be dressing up or whether you're just going to be enjoying the show. Thank you so much for having attended an evening with DisCon 3. We're delighted to be able to provide you with information that you're going to need, with great fan content, something to keep you engaged and interested as the convention gets closer. So stay safe, stay well, enjoy, and be sure to come back again.